Hi, this is Teddy, and today you're listening to Teddy Talks, a series within Two Broads Talking Politics. Today our special guest is David Pogue, who is a host of 20 Nova Science specials, 5-time Emmy winner, and New York Times bestselling author. Hi, I'm Teddy, and this is Teddy Talks. I'm here with my producer/assistant, my mother, Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Teddy.
And our special guest today is David Pogue, a best-selling author, 5-time Emmy winner, and host of 20 Nova Science specials, including some of my favorites. Hello, David. Can I call you that?
I wouldn't want you calling me anything else.
Got it. Loud and clear. We're going to ask you some questions. So, the first question. You've done several TED Talks, have you not?
I haven't indeed. I've done 4 or 5 TED Talks, yeah.
I know this is your first Teddy Talks.
They need to change the name. But of course, it's an acronym, right? TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. So we would need to figure out what the DY stands for.
Yeah. It's also because of my name.
Teddy just stands for
I know.
Theodore.
Oh, I know. How about this? Technology, Entertainment, and Design, David and you.
Oh.
Yeah. Except this isn't my only one, but anyway. The second question. It seems like you have a lot of fun in your episodes and your shows. What's the most fun thing you've ever done in the name of science? And did you really throw up when you rode in that self-driving car?
Yes, I really threw up, and I can't believe they use that on TV. I mean, Teddy, you know, they edit these film shoots, right? We go and we film all day long, and then what you see in the finished show is only 3 minutes of that. So it would have been very easy for them to trim out the part where the self-driving car made me throw up on the side of the track. Nope, they didn't. They thought it'd be funny. Let's see. What is the most fun I've ever had? The basic idea behind these Nova shows is we're trying to make science interesting and entertaining to watch, and at the same time, kill me on camera. So they've had me, go swimming with sharks and go in a demolition derby car, and they've tried freezing me and boiling me and all that stuff. The most fun I ever had, believe it or not, was for an episode for a scene that didn't even get into the show. You never saw it, but they sent me hang gliding in Florida. We were talking about like how birds can fly and how their wings are shaped, and so there's a guy in Florida who has a hang gliding camp. And anyone can sign up. You go there, and he goes up there with you. Like, you don't have to know how to hang glide. It's a 2-person hang glider.
That makes sense.
And you're not jumping off a cliff like some hang gliders do. Instead, they've got a tiny single-person, single-engine airplane with a long tow rope attached to your hang glider, which has wheels on the bottom.
Just in case you basically crash.
Yeah, well, no, because the airplane takes off, right? He's towing me until I get enough lift to go up in the air. And once we're way up in the air, like, 500 feet in the air, then the tow rope comes unattached and the airplane flies away. And at that point, I'm just in the hang glider with the instructor, and we're just floating. So that was the most fun I ever had, and they didn't even use it in the show.
Nope. Well, it seems like the bacon flamethrower was pretty fun, too. Bacon flamethrower.
The bacon flamethrower. When the director told me that that's what we were going to shoot, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? There's science we can learn from a bacon flamethrower. But it worked. It worked.
It did. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you're quite good at this, Teddy. I listened to a couple of your other episodes before deciding whether to use my valuable time to join you. And I realized that the questions are good, that you've put some thought and some preparation into this. And having been a guest on many podcasts, I can tell you they don't all do that.
Yeah. This is your first time being interviewed by a 9-year-old.
Yes, I think that is accurate. That is this is the first podcast I've ever done with anybody under 10.
Can you tell us a little secret? So have you started filming any more Nova specials? Can we get insight on what they might be about? Some inside information?
I wish very much that I could. Actually, there are none planned at this second because the last one, Beyond the Elements, just finished airing. And, the guy who runs Nova, this good friend of mine named Chris Schmidt, he calls them films. Like, he'll say, David, your latest film is almost ready to be on TV. And which I always thought was weird because I think of a film as like a Hollywood movie, But actually, they really are, they have more in common with Hollywood movies than
TV shows.
A television show. Yeah, exactly. For example, they have all the same equipment, cameras and microphones and a crew. They have an assistant on every show, on every shoot, whose job it is to get us snacks and water and to navigate to where we're going. And the main thing is, it takes 2 years. I mean, it took 2 years of filming to make those 3 1-hour Beyond the Elements shows. Everybody writes to me and says, wait a minute, we watched that show and you're not wearing a mask. I'm like, no kidding. The last time we were filming was 2 months before the pandemic even started. We filmed that a long time ago. So it took, let's see, an entire year to edit, get the animations made, hire somebody to write the music, figure out what order the scene should be in. When we finished shooting, it was supposed to be a 2-hour show. This is the truth. And we had shot so much more stuff than we needed that Nova finally said, you know what? Let's make it a 3-hour show. Because otherwise we would have had to cut out a whole bunch of stuff. But what that meant was that Dan McCabe, the writer-director, he had it planned as 2 1-hour shows. Now he had to rip it all up and reorganize everything and make it 3-hour shows. So anyway, so they really are like movies, and they do take so much time and a lot of money, by the way, to make.
Makes sense.
Teddy, do you know what they mean when we say Nova is on the channel PBS, which is the public broadcasting system? Do you know how that's different from regular TV channels? There's one thing that you won't see on PBS.
What?
Ads.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about PBS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. So what that means is that in order to make a Nova show, we have to get all the money to make it in advance by going around to big corporations and charities and institutions and asking for the money. And that takes 2 years by itself. We started trying to get the money together for Beyond the Elements in 2016 when you were just
I was born in 2011.
diapers.
Yes, you were 5.
2011, okay.
I was 5.
So you were 5, yeah. So a long time. So the answer is we don't have another Pogue Nova planned right now because they take so long to get together. But I'm crossing my fingers, and I will tell the big bosses that you want us to do it.
I see. So now for what the interview is mostly about. You have a new book out called How to Prepare for Climate Change, a practical guide to surviving the chaos. What motivated you to write this book?
That's a great question. He's got a copy, folks. He's holding it up to the camera. That's right. I've always had sort of 2 careers. One is I've been writing how-to books on technology things, iPhones and Macs and Windows and stuff like that. And in my other life, I've always been a science reporter, doing stories about the environment and plastic in the ocean and stuff like that. So this idea sort of brought those 2 threads together. And this might be super boring and technical to you, but I'll tell you, in the world of climate change, they think there's 2 ways that we can react to it. There's what they call mitigation, which means trying to stop climate change, which means, don't fly as many airplanes, don't eat as much red meat, drive an electric car. And that's all really important. But I feel like we hear about that a lot. I feel like there's been a lot of books on those subjects. But the other thing we can do is adapt to climate change. We can make changes to make ourselves more protected. And I don't feel like anybody had written about that. So that's really the beauty of this idea.
How to prepare for it.
How to prepare for it. Could not have put it better myself.
My favorite tip in the book is move to Chicago, because that's where we live.
Chicago is one of the lucky towns. You don't have the wildfires. You don't have the hurricanes. You do have some flooding. And also, the other advantage of Chicago is it's a frickin' great town. I mean, it's just like a great place to live. I love Chicago so much.
It's a little bit less exciting when you spend all of your time inside your own house.
What, like if there's a pandemic or something?
My dad says 90% of the culture of New York, half the price.
That's probably right. Only you still have to go to New York to see Broadway shows. So it does have its drawbacks. But you have the Bean. I love the Bean. And you're still allowed to leave the house to go visit the Bean.
So, what is the most interesting or unexpected thing you learned while researching to write the book?
Oh, it was the cows thing. When we hear about climate change, we hear about carbon dioxide that gets burned from our from when we burn oil and gas and coal. It makes
cows
carbon
farting
dioxide.
out methane.
That's where I was going with this. You got it. But cows fart and burp out methane. Like one cow pumps out 12 gallons of this stuff an hour, and methane is 80 times worse than carbon dioxide. 80 times worse. So this is the one fact that blew my mind the most. Ready? Of all the land on the planet Earth that isn't frozen, 1/3 of it is dedicated to cows grazing. 1/3 of all the land is for the cows, not even us. And so that's why they're... this is Wilbur. Wilbur the cat doesn't like when I'm on Zoom without him. Oh, here he is. This is Wilbur. So that's why they're burning down the rainforests in Brazil, is because they want to make more land for cows to graze. So they're an environmental disaster. They require 8 times... for every 1 pound of cow that you eat, they have to grow 8 pounds of grain and corn and stuff like that we could be eating. So it's also a really, really wasteful way to make food that we eat, to take 8 times as much food and turn it into 1/8 as much food that we then eat. So I have to say that was shocking to me. And I'm not some big, granola eating vegan guy, but I will say that I have not voluntarily eaten red meat since I read that. I can't justify it. How long is it in your mouth when you have a hamburger or a steak? 10 seconds. And here's one other fun fact for you on the cow thing. 4 pounds of beef, which is what a typical American eats in a week or two. It puts out as many greenhouse gases as one person flying from New York to London on a plane. I mean, it's just the worst.
Well,
So,
she doesn't eat
was-
4 pounds of beef. She's a vegetarian, straight vegetarian.
Really? Nicely
I've been
done.
for 20 years.
Really? And you're still alive. Kelly, do you try to push that on the rest of the family, or are they in with you?
None of the rest of the family is total vegetarian, but we eat a mostly vegetarian diet. The kids
We
eat a
try
little
to.
more meat than we do. But the kids eat veggie burgers, and they're when we have tacos, we have veggie meat. So
Growing
they're
kids
pretty
need
good about it.
Growing kids need nourishment.
Right. Have you tried the Impossible burgers? Oh, those are incredible. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was kind of a shock.
A lot of the advice in your book is for grown-ups in decisions like where to live and how to build your house. But what are things that 9-year-olds like me can and should be doing to prepare for climate change?
That's a great question. First of all, I think you should direct the rest of the family in taking some of the things in the book. When my son was 11, he had as a Boy Scout project to make a go bag. This is like a backpack that you keep by the front door or in a closet that has everything you would need.
You mentioned them in your book.
Yeah, exactly. But you could take charge of that project, Teddy. You could say, this weekend, Mom, Dad, we're all going to make go bags. And everybody makes their own, right? And it has snacks, it has water, it has a little bit of money, a first aid kit, a flashlight, stuff like that. So that if anyone ever says to you, everybody must leave home immediately, you won't waste time running around feeling helpless. You'll have everything you need for a couple days. And you can be the boss of that. You can also, by the way, start what they call social contagion, which means, a 9-year-old is not going to stop climate change by himself, but the things you do, other people see. And the more people who see you taking public transportation or riding your bike or not eating beef, people will say, Teddy, how come you never have hamburgers at the cafeteria? And you can explain, and the more people you touch that way, a lot of individuals add up to big action, to mass. Americans, believe it or not, eat 10% less beef than we did 40 years ago. So it can happen. And mostly it's because of health reasons, like red meat is not good for you, rather than things like climate. But change can happen through a lot of social action. Here's another example. Hardly anyone smokes today compared to 40 years ago. And that is just because of peer pressures, because of people see other people not smoking. People see that the only way you're allowed to smoke at work now is to go stand in front of the building feeling embarrassed and ashamed. So that how it looks to other people helps to make big societal change.
I'm more the sandwich type. I don't usually eat hamburgers at lunch, though. We pack sun butter and jelly sandwiches, not peanut butter because, allergy stuff.
Ah, that's a great idea. Yeah. PB&J, you can't lose.
In your book, you talk about the concept of global weirding. What we saw in Texas this month sort of seems like global weirding. I mean, blizzards in Texas. How should people in places like Texas be preparing for these weird weather events?
Oh, man, you said it. Yeah, I just want to expand on what you said. I think global warming is a really bad term for people to use because it makes people think that the only problem is warmer summers and nicer winters. But it actually means all kinds of crazy, it means, as you said, freak cold snaps and freak heat waves. It means flooding and drought. It means people without drinking water and fierce hurricanes drowning them in water. So it's climate breakdown, really. I don't know that there's anything Texans could have done to anticipate this. I mean, it's just never happened in any living person's memory where this giant cold snap. I mean, there is one tip in the book that I really feel strongly about. It's free for everyone, and it might have helped. There's a free app from the American Red Cross. It's just called Emergency. And what you do is you get this app, and you put in your address, and your grandparents' address, your children's address, your workplace address, and then you can put this app away in a folder somewhere and forget about it. But if any kind of disaster ever comes your way, a weather disaster, a man-made disaster, a chemical spill, a nuclear leak, whatever, this thing starts beeping and flashing to get your attention. You've forgotten that you even had the app, but it gives you early warning. It tells you early on that there's something bad happening and gets your attention. Every time, wildfire, hurricane, Texas, every time there are people who die just because they didn't get the news. They didn't hear that there was a fire coming. They were, asleep, or they weren't watching TV. They don't have a smartphone. So at least this app would solve the problem of not getting warning ahead of time. But otherwise, I would say the whole state of Texas was completely caught by surprise. I mean, they don't have snowplows in Texas. They don't have salt trucks in Texas. I was talking to somebody in Austin, Texas, and they were saying, we have sand trucks. Like the trucks were driving over the snowy roads and dumping sand so the cars wouldn't slip, but they don't have salt that would melt the snow and ice. So it was really a problem. I did think of one other answer to your great question about Texas. This is kind of cool. This isn't in the book. I didn't learn this until last week, but the United States electricity grid, like this whole system of wires and where the power is made and how it gets to our houses and all the telephone poles, is divided into the east half of the right side of the United States and the west half of the United States. And they're all interconnected. So I live in Connecticut, and if our power goes out, or if we have some freak of nature, we can get electricity from the next state over. We can get it from New Jersey or Rhode Island. Texas, years ago, decided not to be part of either one of those national grids. They're not part of the East Coast grid. They're not part of the West Coast grid.
Decision.
Bad decision. Texas is one all by itself. They wanted to be independent, and now they're really paying the price. That was a really poor call. It was made for money reasons. People, because Texas produces a lot of oil, they said, why would we ever need anybody else's power? We make our own power here. But I think the events of last week show that it wasn't a good idea to be independent, and maybe they should rethink that.
So after writing a book about climate change, how hopeful are you for the future for kids like me and Arthur?
I think that 2 months ago, I would have had a very different answer to this question. We just elected a president who spoke about doing something about climate change at every speech he gave, at every debate, and we have never had a president that fixated on climate change. Not even President Obama. He didn't talk about climate change that much during his campaign. So Biden has hired literally the smartest scientists and minds in the entire climate change world. He's surrounded himself with these people, and he's making climate change a factor in every single department of the government, even things you wouldn't think have anything to do with climate change. He's put people in those meetings to say, yeah, but this is how that would affect climate change. So who knows how many of his plans will come true, but at least he's trying every single day, and he's got the world's greatest minds around him. I will also say the last chapter of this book, as you know, is called Where to Find Hope. And that was the second most surprising thing that I got out of researching this book. It turns out that during the last 4 years, our government did nothing about climate change, but a lot of states, 24 of the states, didn't care. They went right ahead as though we were still in the Paris Agreement. They went right ahead cutting their climate gases every day. New York, California, Connecticut, Hawaii, a lot of states, 55% of the population. And so in some ways, the United States never did quit trying. And during that last 4 years, one other cool thing has happened, which is companies who are among the biggest polluters, they've started getting a lot of pressure, both from us, the people, and from the people who work for those companies. I mean, 2 years ago, Amazon.com had no climate plan. They were doing absolutely nothing to solve the problem. But the workers of Amazon, thousands and thousands and thousands, got together and signed petitions and had demonstrations, and they practically had a mutiny, and they forced the top bosses to change. And now Amazon is giving $10 billion to climate science. They're getting 100,000 electric vans. They plan to be carbon neutral by 2030. And that all just came from ordinary people who work for the company saying this is not okay. So I think there's the new president, there is the fact that we never stopped trying, and now there is the fact that companies who are the biggest polluters are under a lot of pressure to clean up their act. I think those are all really good signs for hope.
Yeah. We're about to go into the last two questions. I just want to say it's been an honor talking with you, and I never thought I would get to do this, and thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, Teddy. Super fun, and I'm sure other guests have told you this, but the fact that you have prepared so well for this and come up with such good questions. I mean, it makes the fact that you're 9 irrelevant. I mean, it just has absolutely no importance to this fact. If we put your voice through a machine that makes it deeper and then put this podcast out, I don't think anyone would know that you were a kid.
Unless, of course, these words are recorded still. Yeah. I'm just a kid with a deep voice. A really deep voice that's unusual for a kid.
No, we should tell people the opposite. We should tell people you're 40 but have a rare voice condition.
Yeah. So, the penultimate question. If I wanted to have a career where I get to ride in self-driving cars, and possibly puke, and eat hot peppers, where do I sign up?
Wow. You know, I never set out to do what I do. I never said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a science television guy. I just, one thing just led to another. Whenever somebody emails me or calls me and says, hey, do you want to do blah, blah, blah? I just always say yes. So I think that if you are into science, first of all, I think you will always have a job. I think you will always be needed. As you may have heard, there's this pandemic going around, and science is the only way out of it. And I think that people in America and the world are starting to realize, science is kind of important. So I think you'll always have a job. And
well, that's an understatement. Science is kind of important.
Yeah, and becoming more important all the time. I consider myself not a scientist because I don't study science for a career, but I'm a science communicator, right? I write and explain science. And that is also something that you could study. As you grow up, you could do that. You could make YouTube videos. You could write blog posts. And sooner or later, you will be noticed. I mean, people will pick up on you and ask you to do it for bigger and bigger things like television. Yeah.
So, and for our final question, where can people find your book and where can they find you next on TV?
Everything I do is on my website, davidpogue.com. The book is everywhere, bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And by the way, one thing that's sad about the pandemic is that I can't do a book tour. I can't meet people. I can't sign copies of their books, which, as you know, is something that authors often do to make the book a little more special. So I will offer your listeners a special deal. If anyone does get the book, just email me with your address, and I will sign a little sticker. I'll autograph it to you and mail it to you, and then you can put that in the front of the book just as though I was there to sign it for you. So my email is Pogue, my last name, Pogue, at me, like me, .com, pogue@me.com, and I'll mail those things right out. And the next time you can be on TV would be every Sunday on CBS Sunday Morning. That's on CBS on Sunday mornings, and I've been on there. I've had stories just about every week, and that should continue through the year.
Again, it's been an honor, and I just want to thank you for everything.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for watching the shows and for reading the book. That's really good of you, and I hope you. What I hope, Teddy, what I hope you and your brother agree with is the advice in the chapter about how to talk to your kids about climate change. I talked to a bunch of professional psychiatrists, and they all told me, don't hide it. Don't try to make it seem less bad than it is, because basically your kids already know. And if you try to hold back and say, oh, it's not a very big problem, they'll wonder what's wrong with you, the parent. Why aren't you telling me the truth? So would you agree with that? Would you say that at age 9, you already are pretty aware of climate chaos?
Yeah, also after reading your book.
Yeah, now you're going to have nightmares.
No, not really.
Well, good. Because it turns out there is a lot of reason for hope, and there is a long list of things that you as a family can do to make things better. So that's the good news.
And we'll put on our website when we post this links to the book. And I want to thank you for reading your own audiobook. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks, and I really, really like it when it's in the author's own voice.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it was 11 days of recording. It was such a big deal. 18 hours long that audiobook is.
Just like with the show. Longer than...
Yes, that's right. That's right. That there's much more work. Yeah, that's a lot more, many more hours of work than what you actually see in the finished product. You're right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on, and I guess we gotta wrap it up now. I'm sorry to see you go.
Sorry to see you go, Teddy, and I look forward to your next episode.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Emmy, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.